Thank you. So we're going to touch two different topics, our communication plans and our giving pages. And I will say giving pages, I don't know what it is about it, but it's absolutely one of my favorite topics. And so it's the second one, which is good because otherwise I might go long on it on the first side. But here we are, we're round zero. It's coming to the end of this month. And as we do that, we've had an awesome month. And for some of us, we've had time to work on things and we've gotten some things organized. Some of us, we've been overwhelmed with other things and we've been listening and we've been taking even baby steps are moving us forward into this process of preparing for this microgrant fundraising campaign. So we've talked about systems, we've talked about messaging, and now we're going to talk about how do we put all of that together in the communication plan. So even as this excitement is kind of mounting, some of you, we can't even hold back. You're hitting the gates, ready to go, already going. We really today want, as we pull this all together, and you look forward to where we're going, that you'll feel like you've got some fine tuning you can do, some things that will really help you have confidence in these next couple of months that are coming up. So before we jump into that communication plan, these are the things that, in this round zero. And so Jeff, last year, you guys said, hey, we needed a little extra time to work on all this stuff. Well, this year we implemented what we called round zero so that we could do a lot of these back end sides. So that's what this time has been. And people have been working on maybe one or two of these different things, maybe more than that. But hopefully, I'm hoping you've seen progress. You've seen some steps where you've taken, even if they're baby steps, it'll be amazing as you look back what the benefit is. And I'm excited for you to hear from Jeff because he did that last year and it moved him forward into a number of things this year that he's doing. That's really equipped him for doing that and just built on what already he's been doing. So these are things that we're going to need, not all of them refined, but they're all things that we use wherever you are at to plan a fundraising campaign. So as we do that, this is what you need when you sit down to go, okay, I'm going to plan my fundraising campaign. You need to sit down either with a calendar or some way that you calendarize, you look at dates, look at your calendar, whether it's on a wall or it's on your computer, and then some form of way to organize your thoughts. I said a wall or with a lot of Post-its, or you could use a mind map, draw it on a piece of paper or an Excel spreadsheet. Depends upon your personality, how you like to organize your thoughts. Your team, now if you say, well, I am my team, okay, that's fine. If you've got more people, this is the time to go, all right, how do we put all of these ideas and things we've been planning together in a systematic and by date calendarized way? You'll need your tools, your messaging, the resources. That's all those ideas of how do you put all that together to make the full plan. So what do you think of round one? In the way we do microgrants, because there's two rounds, we're really doing almost two campaigns. I mean, you could think of it that way. We don't typically separate them. But in round one, you're creating a match. And that idea is, okay, how are we going to raise this $2,500 so that we can actually turn around and use it for round two as a match of 5,000. So in your round one ideas, I said, just do a brain dump. Who do you want to talk to? What are you going to say? What are the resources you're going to need? And round one, because you're looking for not a lot of people to get this $2,500, but you're looking for those champions that are already existing with you to say, how do you want to help us build a match so we can turn around and get a bunch of new donors? So do a brain dump, think all those ideas, but I always say keep it simple. You don't need to make it complex. Simple's good, but when simple and intentional come together, that's when it matters. So this process of planning and setting up your communication plan is about being intentional with what you want to do. So this is where round one, you could, put a whole bunch of them on sticky notes. I don't think round one takes as much organization as we talk about round two, but that's where you might want to think, how do we organize that? But if you get your ideas out, then then now you can say, all right, now what do we do to create that plan? And if you're like me, when you want to put your plans in sequential order, I have to write down prayer because I can jump into it with my own ideas, my own ways. I need to remind myself to pray. So I often will even have a sticky note or put it on my list. This is one of the things I'm going to do, and not just one of them, but because I want to keep that posture of, even in my planning, Lord, would you direct my steps? So in that process, when I make it out as a sequential plan, I might be thinking about, what's my messaging? I need a flyer. I'm going to talk to the prayer team, but then I'm like, okay, I got to pray as well. So I'm thinking about, how am I going to incorporate prayer throughout that whole communication plan process? So you can see I've stuck those in there quite a bit. Also highlighted yellow. These are, in round one, this is a sample. This is just an example. It's certainly not the way to do it, but I'm just putting something out there to say, all right, if you share your goals with your prayer team. So prayer team is a group that I'm going to be focusing on in my round one plan. Board members and the MG is major gift partners. These are the people that I was going to target to talk to in my messaging. And then my plan is then to say, all right, what are the systems that I need? All right, I would like a resource of a flyer. I'm wanting to work on my giving page, and I'm thinking about some personal thank yous, and maybe I'm going to make my own microgrant card, or I'm going to do something that specific that I wanted to use for my round one. So I'm looking at people, I'm looking at resources, systems. What's the order? This is when you start to put it in a sequential order of what's going to come first, what needs to happen before the next thing, until you actually get to the place where you put dates to it. And then you say, when's it going to happen? What am I going to do? What channel am I going to use, or what's my form of communication? What's the resources I need in that communication? And then who's going to be in charge of that? So this really helps you and your team to think sequentially, and to think, where is there overlap? What needs to happen first? And what are our deadlines, so we can see how this plays out? And this, again, a sample, but I'm like, okay, we're going to finalize our messaging. We're going to make a call to the prayer team to let them know what's going on, create the giving website. All right, that's not me. That's my trusted Luke, who's my webmaster. He's going to be working on making a shift. I'll give him information. The flyer, oops, I've got this great graphic artist that I'm going to have do that sheet. I'll give her the basic information. Call board members. So you see the order they're going in, who's responsible, and what are the dates that these activities are going to be taking place. So I've laid out my ideas, and I don't want to miss, because sometimes we get really good at making the plan up to the asks and what is that going to look like. But then the follow-up, because there is follow-up, and that's part of every communication plan, is following up with people that you have reached out to in whatever form. Round one, most commonly, is people are reaching out by phone, text, face-to-face, but you still need to follow up. And then also thank yous. That's part of your communication plan that helps you say, after people have said yes, don't forget to communicate our gratitude and appreciation for their partnership. And look what we've done. We're ready to go for round two, however you want to message that, but including follow-up and thank yous. So when we jump into round two, this is where I think a good communication plan is even more important, because, we're talking about how do you communicate not just to a few inner circle people that are your champions, but how am I going to communicate this over time and reach out to get 10 new donors at least with a $5,000 match. So again, this is your idea stage. What are your ideas? This is where I would use sticky notes or a mind map. Those are my two favorite ways of doing it, to be able to get all my ideas written out, to be able to say, what is my messaging, and who am I going to be talking to? What are the things we're going to actually do? Are we going to use events? Are we going to use emails? Are we going to do a peer-to-peer activity? Are we going to do a focus on Giving Tuesday? So, and then what are the resources for round two? What stories we want to share? What channels of communication? So as you're making, your ideas on here, it doesn't mean that every idea will you do, but at least you can do your brain dump and to identify what specific things do you want to do, and then how do you plan to go about that? So I know one of the big questions that seems to be coming up quite a bit is this idea of how do you reach out to new donors? I mean, what are some ideas for that? And so I just put a few of them on here and wanted to open it up in the chat box. If you have some other ideas that you're thinking about, ways of reaching to new donors. So you could promote a match within current donors and your board, and then provide the link for them to be involved with sharing that with ask them to share with 2 or 3 people that they know. So you're using their network, which is maybe outside of your network. Promote it in your small group or at your church. That happened quite a bit last year among microgranters. They just different ways God opened that door. Focusing on your monthly donors, invite your monthly donors to also invite other people into that process. So if you make available either the link on your website or a flyer, then your monthly donors can invite some of their friends to join. Focusing on testimonies. When you reach out to new donors, testimonies of a donor that has already done it or who the people serve, impact really matters. So how could you use testimonies to get that out in social media, on your website, different places that could be shared with other people? Layering communication in those different contexts, creating urgency. So how can you build on it? Because we know it, as we talked about before, it takes 2, 3, sometimes up to 7 times for someone to see something before they really notice it and it catches their attention. And then personal invites. I do not want to understate personal invites, even in round 2. I think that was one of the big takeaways, particularly last year, as people started getting these big ideas. What they a lot of times came back to was, all right, I'm going to talk to the people in my small group at church. I'm going to talk to some family members that have been behind what I'm doing. So it's that phone call, face-to-face, even those things, but those are some of those ideas. So I'm checking to see if there was anyone that put in the chat any additional idea that you had about reaching out to new donors. I'm not seeing anything pop in there. Feel free to do that and everyone will see it. But this is where I want to open the door to introduce you to Jeff. Jeff is Jeff Chubb, and he works for AIMRIGHT. It's a ministry that's downtown Phoenix, and I'm going to give him a chance to share a little bit more. But he was a part of last year's microgrant group, and for those of you that have seen some of our earlier trainings, we highlighted him in the monthly donor program and what he was doing, particularly because he recently had a campaign where he was offering some free merch for the first 5 monthly donors, which caught my attention that he was doing that, and that's caused me to go, hey, Jeff, tell me about that. And then next thing I knew, I wanted to welcome him on here now. So Jeff, just want to say welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you do, your organization, and then about your microgrant. How did you organize and make your plan for round 1, round 2?
Sure. Hi, what's up, everybody? My name's Jeff. I am the executive director at AIMRIGHT Ministries. We are a youth outreach organization in downtown Phoenix. Our mission is to help youth find direction in life, and we do that through after-school programs, summer camps, VBS. We do a lot of work with the city of Phoenix in their housing department, doing after-school programs in housing projects, and then we work really closely with a couple Title I elementary schools in the neighborhood. So kind of a little bit of everything, but the kids in our neighborhood are all mostly low income, under-resourced, and so we just want to encourage them, support them, and platform them, advocate for them in any way that we can. So that's what I get to do. And for our micro grant, we were raising money for, and you can kind of see, I don't know if it's pretty small.
Yeah, I'll go to the next one.
Yeah, there we go. This was, if you see the the cement slab and the shade canopy that had previously been an old sand volleyball court. And we have about 100 kids that come through our campus every week, and we just needed more space to do things, especially through some of the hot seasons. So we identified that we could use the resources to put this up. And so that's what we raised the money for. Our round one communication plan was pretty simple, kind of like what Heather was saying. We just identified, and when I say we, I just identified a few major donors that we approached. One of the perks of Aimright is that we've been around for over 30 years. So we have a decent donor base, a good solid base, but I'm pretty new to the role. At the time, I think it hadn't even been a year that I was the director. So this was a challenge for me to try to connect with and find who our major donors were, and then ask them without a whole lot of relationship built up. So we just identified those, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be to get that initial 2,500. And then that was just all personal phone calls and text messages. I think that's all we used for
The hardest part was for you just to get the courage up to do it and to identify the people. But once you asked them,
Yeah.
they jumped at it, didn't they?
Nobody said no. Every single person I asked said yes, which blew my mind. So I hope that's the case for you guys too. Some of them gave less than what I asked, and then others gave above and beyond what we thought they were going to give. It was pretty amazing to see what God was doing through the whole process. For round two, we tried to do everything we could. So during round one, we started planning for round two, kind of getting an idea. And I have a small team that I work with, and they're younger, so they're social media and tech savvy, which was huge. So we came at it from every angle. We did text messaging, we did email blasts, we did direct mail, which was surprisingly one of our most successful campaigns. We got our staff involved, and then we put up a video on YouTube. We did We did reels on Instagram, posts on Facebook, stories, all of that. So anything that we could do to get the word out, we tried to use it all. And I don't think there was one thing that kind of was the tipping point. It was a combination of everything. So we just sat down, and myself and our two other team members, and we just mapped out, okay, our goal for this month, I can't remember what month it would have been, like October or November?
Yeah, October, no, both. We did 2 months. Yeah.
So those 2 months we mapped out, okay, let's start with social media. How many times a week do we want to post about this micro grant? And we included in that, we wrapped in our monthly donor program. We completely revamped it, and that was one of our big things. We wanted to pull people into becoming monthly donors. So we pushed it out on social media, and we had set okay, we have parameters. We're going to send out at least 3 posts or stories or reels, so 3 social media things every week, and we're going to do that for the entire 2 months, so that it's just out there all the time. And then we looked at our direct mail. We only did 1 direct mail campaign because it costs a lot more. So we sent that out. And then we also did, I think we might have done maybe 4 email blasts. And we used one of the email blasts as the same thing as the newsletter, but we just wanted to get those emails out there. We tried to connect stories of the kids that we serve to each of especially the email and the direct mail campaign, to make it a little bit more personal. We could have done a better job, I think, of trying to make those telling stories. I was looking back, and we did a lot of just presenting information and then hoping people would respond to it. So that would be something I would do differently, is trying to make it even more personal and trying to highlight the kids we're serving. So
you really did have a learning experience as you guys did this together. Was it your first time that you did it together with your team?
First time.
Blast like that?
Yeah. So we had done, I think we had done maybe one other campaign for our summer camp, but we had just done it the way it had always been done in the past. So through this process, not only did we get and you're going to probably talk about this today, but we did it all at once. We did our communication plan. We pushed everything out, and at the same time, so that forced us to rethink and really examine the language that we were using on our website, on our giving page, everywhere. So we wanted to simplify it, put everything through the funnel of, okay, is this helping us communicate our mission and vision, which is helping youth find direction in life, and we do that through year-round programming, etc. So how do we communicate that over and over and over? So we're sick of it, but people will be familiar with what we're doing. And then tying that into, okay, here's how this shade structure and concrete slab are going to help us help youth find direction in life. And people we found are way more excited about giving towards a specific thing than they are just a general operating costs. So people were super excited to jump on, and we had everything from like $5 a month to $500 a month by the time we were done.
Yeah, and look at your results there. So not only did you hit the 10 new donors, you hit 18 new donors, 31 total donors in that process, and you more than doubled the total impact of that goal. Did you anticipate going way above 10,000?
Well, we had to, because the concrete slab was 20 grand.
Okay.
And we put it in as we were beginning the campaign. We said, we know we can get this. We're going to get this. So we said go on the micro grant campaign as the concrete slab was being poured. So that was we wanted to get 20 grand. So.
Yeah, your round 2 is very significant, very successful. Round 1, you didn't go above the 2,500 and make a bigger match, but in round 2, you did your big push. And I want to encourage all of you, so you're hearing two things. One, Jeff, this organization had been there a long time. Jeff had not. And he had a small team, but he did have a team. And so they said, we're going to just do as much as we can and learn from that. But you also don't have to do all of that. So, I mean, the good news is that what you're going to do, and this is just one of those examples of calendaring, is, it's just like he said, they just mapped it out. They said, how many social medias are we going to do? And when is that going to happen? How many email blasts are we going to do? And are we going to do, and I would say even on this, when I mapped this one out, I tried to also say, how am I going to incorporate other people? How can I leverage other people? Because Jeff had a big network. They had donors. Some of you are saying, I don't even know how to get donors. So it's like, how do you leverage those few people you do have, whether it's your current people that are giving? I have, if you have a monthly donor program, that's the MDP. How do you encourage them to help give to that? Even looking at, if you want to do a direct mail, some of you do that already. Normally you send out your appeals in the mail to people because the type of donor you have. You don't have to do any one of these things, but just thinking through, what does that look like to go, to help you think round 2 is 2 months. So it's that constant layering of communication, consistently keeping that out there so people are aware. So Jeff, when you think about what you guys did, and you said that there wasn't any one tipping point, but were there any things that when you looked back on that plan, you said, okay, we're going to do more of that because that seemed to be a good return on our time and investment?
Yeah. There wasn't maybe anything like that was a huge tipping point, but we had such a great response from our social media, a lot of engagement with it. And, we didn't have a huge chunk of money that came from like people clicking on the link from an Instagram story. But what it did was we created the online relationship, I guess is what you call it. And we had more in mind than just this micro grant. We wanted it to be something where we're just going to embrace this process and know that it's a launching pad for the next couple of years. So we're going to use what we've learned and kind of try to see what sticks. But I would say our direct mail, just embracing that as much as I'm like, let's not even do it because who wants to get something in the mail? Well, apparently everyone. And we got a lot of checks in the mail with it, which I, couldn't believe, but that's our donor base. So I think for me, it was making sure that I'm paying attention to what our donor base responds to, not what I think they'll respond to.
That's good.
And then the other thing we did that was super helpful was we have we use Network for Good, which is donor management software. And we targeted, there's ways to filter on there. And I'm assuming most donor management softwares, lapsed donors, because we didn't want to just get all brand new, like we wanted to hit everybody we could. And so we tried to find people that hadn't given in the last 3 years and really target them. And that worked for a few people. Or people were just like, oh, why am I not giving to AimRight? I'm going to get on that. But the biggest thing was learning what donors respond to and being okay with that and going with it. Yeah. If that makes sense.
So, as you sat there and you did your plans, you were planning, and no plan goes exactly like you think it is. You work on that execution piece and you say, how are we going to do this? But if you don't plan, then you don't really know how to get it done, what order it's going to get done in, who's going to get it done. And so you can easily trip over yourself. But you get to that place where you identify success because you're out there executing your plan, and you learn from your plan every time. So you're doing this month, you're kicking off a brand new campaign. Is that right?
Yeah, we tried. We wanted to every year we want to revisit our monthly donor campaign, which is we call it the block. Join the block. It's we serve maybe a 2 square mile block here in downtown Phoenix, and we want people to join us here by giving. And so that was our big spiel. And so we were trying to figure out ways that we could every year just keep adding to that monthly donor base. And our goal was to get 5 this year. And so we put out this a merch giveaway. We have leftover sweatshirts and things that we did last year as part of our campaign. And so we just said the first 5 people that become new monthly donors get a free hoodie or a sweatshirt. And then to push that out, we kind of stole this idea from Urban Youth Workers Institute out of LA. They do their monthly donor program is called You Become an Urban Ally. And they put up, I don't know, probably 20 videos of urban allies. Like, hey, this is Jeff. He's an urban ally, and here's why. And then it was like a 30-second snippet. So we wanted to do a little bit of that. So we put up, we had a couple donors that are fairly new monthly donors say why they give to AimRight, why they became a monthly donor, and tried to push it out. We got one new monthly donor out of the deal, but it kind of helped us figure out, okay, here's what we need to really push, and here's what people respond to. But that was our campaign. We went for a few weeks.
Well, and I saw that in one of the Instagrams of one of your new donors, and it was great because it was casual. It was not any professional thing like your one online, but he's walking down the road. And he says, my name is, who was it? I forgot his name.
Stephen Frankie.
Yeah. So my name's Stephen, and I joined the block, and here's why. And it was less than a minute, it's an Instagram. But, just those kinds of testimonies of real people that are a part of stuff, just really good ideas of that's a resource that when you create a communication plan, you're looking for what's the next resource? What's the thing that will help us get the word out that people can connect to? And not everything does work, but when you're out there, you're going, all right, how do we get people equal dollars, which gives you the thing that you're always after. So planning leads to good execution. Execution leads to the results and the resources that you all need. So just a quick summary on communication plans. Get your ideas out, put them out on paper, organize them, whatever way that works really well for you. Calendarize that, work with your team and figure out how are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? And don't bite off too much, but get that idea and figure out what what works for you? Like Jeff said, of your donors, what works for your particular donor base? What works with the people that you're connected to? So you're going to try things. You're going to learn from that. Don't forget to include the resources in your plan, follow-up communication, and thank yous. So all of those things are really important. So Ashley asked, was there a certain money donation amount that they needed to meet before getting the hoodie sweatshirt? Yeah, tell a little bit more about the merch giveaway.
Yeah, we said $25 a month because we wanted, that was kind of, if somebody's going to join, we want it to be, we wanted to push that $25 a month number. So I don't know, maybe that kept people from donating, but yeah, it was $25 a month. We tried to keep it fairly low and manageable, but
yeah, I think some of these guys were tempted because when I put it out there, we saw your merch and I was like, oh man, I want that t-shirt. Oh, but wait, that's
got great
going to
stuff.
cost me $300 a year to have that sweatshirt. No, it was great. Yeah, I thought it was a great idea. So going into giving pages and donation forms, and this is something that Jeff and I talked quite a bit about last year as he was redoing the block. He was one of the brave people that said, hey, I do want some feedback. And we have a brave person on today as well. But this idea of looking at your giving page, the thing is, you guys are all doing great work. And when you're actively seeking people to partner with you, that's my nice little stick person on the left. They might be family, friends. They might be somebody that's in your community that have heard about what you've done, or they've heard about it through one of the champions in your community. And someone shares a vision, someone spends time crafting messaging, you call people, you send out emails. It's a lot of work to do that whole communication plan. And then they get to the place, the way they give. Now, some people still give by checks. That number's reducing. Direct mail is not dead. I absolutely agree. And surprisingly, one of our trend things that we learned when we did the training on trends is that actually the youngest generation likes direct mail because I don't think they get mail, and certainly not mail that's got something meaningful in it. They get bills. Everything's online for them. So direct mail actually is resurging. And then, of course, for the elderly population that likes to write checks. But, all of that, still, it's more like 80-90% of people are giving by donation pages, and that's growing and growing every year. So your donation page, your giving page and donation page really matter because you can do all that work. And unfortunately, the reality is there is in the industry an abandonment rate of 80%. People go to your giving page. Now, why do people go to your giving page besides me who looks at it and evaluates and gives feedback? But most people go to a giving page to give. And why is it that 80% leave that page and do not give a donation? And this week, when I was looking at different pages and different things to update this slideshow, I was going on a couple of them, and I've noticed quite a few have different kinds of fundraising backends, like Network for Good, like Bloomerang, like the other ones that different ones of you have, that actually now provide a pop-up page as soon as you go away from the giving page that said, would you like to give a donation? And they actually reduce the smallest amount almost in half. And I noticed that came up because we have to look at this and go, why do people leave? What is it that's this 80%? How can we increase that 80% that goes to our giving page? And there are some really simple things that can be done that are intentional. So first of all, just let me define what a giving page is. So it's a place on your website that you say, donate now, give. And when you click that, it's where they go. And for some people, it's actually a web page. And for some people, it is part of your donation form that you can customize. But it's where people find out about their options for giving or what ways they can give. Now, this one example at the top here for Streetlight, they have 3 different buttons call to action buttons. One is monthly giving in purple, green, donate now, and then AZ tax credit. So they've got 3 ways highlighted right on their giving page, but it stands out that takes you to one of 3 pages. In their case, they have 3 separate pages. House of Refuge has one giving button, and then that opens up to a giving page that gives you some options we'll look at. But consider this, is it visible? Is it easily visible? Can people easily go onto your website and see where they can go to give? Number one, that is critical, is finding a way to give. And if your giving button is not highlighted, I would highly recommend doing it, because there's an organization that does a lot of research on all of this, and they are finding that if you just do what these guys did and color the outside of your button, your people going and clicking on it jumps up 80%. I mean, that's a huge number just to click on it. So more people are clicking, huge numbers more, by just highlighting it. And I think about the language there. You've got donate now, very common language, give. I think we want it to be clear that it's financial. You don't want to say join our team, because they're not sure if you're employing somebody or volunteering or giving, but you want people to go, I want to give some resources. There's people are giving their money. They want to do good with what God's given them. So it wants to be financial, but do you want to use donate now, which is what I think the majority of people out there use, is donate now. I'm seeing a lot of Christ-centered organizations use the word give, because some people have said, it's what the Bible says is give and it shall be given to you. It's more blessed to give than receive. So using some of that language, don't spend a ton of time on it, but have a reason, why do you do what you do? And maybe you can try use donate now, try give another time. Does it change things for you? So having a single giving page that then gives you, if you click on this, it should take you to a particular place on your website that then shows what their options are. So I would say always think of it from a donor's perspective. So when you go to a giving page, sometimes, like we've talked about this before, bring someone on, test it. Does it make sense to them? But is the navigation easy to get there? Is the language clear? Is the visibility clear? Do they know what options they have? Do they know that there's actual impact in their giving? Because that's one of the things. And then probably one of the most important statistically is that it's secure, because a lot of people are concerned about security online. So it's assuring to people that it is secure to get on there. So if you think about that, if you go to House of Refuge, this is their giving page. If you click on that give on the top, it shows up like this. It says giving to House of Refuge, and then they give you 3 options. Real simple, clear for your donors. So Jeff, you did a pretty sizable shift on your giving page last year, and you might have done some work since then. What did you do, and why did you do it, the work that you did?
Yeah. I just completely ripped off House of Refuge and looked at, I simplified our giving page to two boxes, give now and give monthly. So it was a little tricky. It took a lot of work, because we go through Network for Good, and so it goes to a different page. And so we were trying to cut down on any barriers to get people to give. So any click can act as a barrier. So we were trying to get rid of how many clicks it takes to get to the point where you're choosing your monthly amount or whatever, to the actual giving part. So we simplified it on our page to just 2 buttons. And then when we had the giving page critiqued, I just wrote everything down that Heather said, that all of the my fellow microgranters said, suggestions, and I put it all on a piece of paper. And then I made all those changes, and a lot of it revolved around being more specific about what the block is. It revolved around, like, what is like when I say you're impacting a student's life in Garfield, like, what is that actual impact? So being very specific, but also being, simplifying some of the, we had paragraphs that we just chopped out and then reworded so that it was clear and simple, and people would understand really quickly what they were giving to, especially on that monthly donor page. Then the other thing that I did that was super helpful was we went through this like one of these calls and had it critiqued and pushed all the buttons and had my pages long to-do list of things to fix. And then once I had all the changes made, we revisited it. And I think, Heather, you took a look at it again, maybe, but I sent it to a number of people. I sent it to a few pastors who, have websites that work really well, had them look at it. I sent it to just some friends of mine and said, hey, if I told you to, I didn't even send it to them. I said, hey, find AIM-RIGHT's website and tell me how easy it is to give. Like, I'm not even gonna tell you what the website is, just go do it. And then I sent it to my mom and I sent it to my grandparents to see if I said, hey, aimright.org, see how easy it is to give. And then I got feedback from them, made a few tweaks, and it's been pretty much the same since then.
Yeah. And he did a ton of work. And so he went from 3 options that House of Refuge had to 2. Here's one, and this is actually one of our micro granters this year. This is Liz's website, Hope for Addiction. And they did a ton of work on theirs. And on their giving page, the first one you pop into, they gave 4 ways because of what's going on in their organization. The key is what Jeff said, is count the clicks. So if you're on your main webpage and you click one to get to a giving page, that the options here need to just make sense to who you are. And this, for them, they had 4 options. One is general giving. And so that is, they've actually got some words under it. You can see it's a very simple wording underneath it. And then they've got their Operation Recover Hope. And if you've never seen their monthly donor program, oh my goodness, you should go check it out. Very creative, very fun. That's their monthly donor. They've got also this Change a Life because they are dealing with these houses. So they have it's like a project almost that they have a specific giving toward, and then also non-financial support. So those are the 4 that made sense to them. So 2, 4, 3, those are the right numbers of options on that giving page, that just something that fits you, that helps a donor when they come on, they've been talking to you, where do I go so I can do that? And so that's where you want to look at. Now this, again, back to Streetlight, they have this thing called Ways to Give. And so on their page, they list all these different ways to give, which is fun to see somewhere that's easy to find. But this is their monthly donor page that they have, and they explain for monthly giving, why does that matter? And so here it actually says the monthly gift, no matter how low, allows us to provide. So there's their messaging around monthly giving. They have the donate now. The problem is real. The problem is local. The solution is at hand. So they're basically saying, if you just want to give right now, then here's what you need to do. And then they also have AZ tax credit. So they actually had 3 different pages with the one click that's on their homepage. So when they're counting clicks, they go, put our options on the homepage. They didn't give much, information. So they kind of speak for themselves from a donor's perspective. Do you want to give now? Do you want to give monthly? One of the things I've seen, and they didn't do it here, but on the Give Now page, a lot of people are now saying, if you want to make your donation go farther and have greater impact, even on the Give Now page, they will not shamelessly, communicate the value of their monthly giving. So I think it's a great way to have those 3 separate pages and to keep doing that. Creating a value proposition, and Jeff alluded to this, and that's saying, so why should people give? When they go to click on that give button, if 80% leave, why? One thing is just kind of when you go there, how does it feel? Is this the right decision for me to make? And so you want people to go, any gift matters. So if I was only going to give $10, can that matter? Will that accomplish something? What do you do that's unique? You want to just clearly reinforce the simplicity of it, not in paragraphs like Jeff said, but really clearly something that's compelling, which could be a simple testimony that's on there. If you go to House of Refuge on their page, they have a simple 2-line donor testimony that's on there. So something that says what's compelling, and then how do we know that it's credible? And even testimonies can produce credibility. Sometimes it's even emblems. So if you have an ECFA emblem or a charitable giving emblem, anything like that helps people see, all right, this is a good decision. We want to do this. And so here's another general giving page. And what it says is big letters, bring light and hope to the darkness of addiction. All right, that's compelling. I want to affect that. If I come onto your giving page of Hope for Addiction, I want to make a difference in addiction. I can bring light and hope there. And then it says your partnership provides ongoing tools. So ongoing typically is a helpful thing for people to see. It's not a one-time. Tools and support people who need to change their lives and stop the cycle of addiction and destruction. That's powerful words. Your giving helps stop the cycle of addiction and destruction. If anyone knows anything about addiction, destruction, the cycle is real. And so to feel like you're contributing to that, and then their last sentence says, each dollar you give provides hope to a man, woman, mom, dad, child, or friend who desperately needs help. So I think this represents all four of those in a very positive way. Here's another example, and I would say, what's missing? This is not my favorite example. I haven't highlighted something, but one of the powers of this one here, the images, right? You got much more images than you do have words. But the words are well chosen, but the images say something. These are people I'm like, I believe these are the people they're serving. This is not a canned photo, but this is a real thing that's happening where people are there and they are working through it. This one, have no idea. Support St. Louis seniors. I don't have any image. So when I go on this page, how do I feel? I'm like, it's purple. I'm like, you can help St. Louis seniors. Okay, that's helpful. Maybe it's doable. Donate and ensure they have access to nutrition, health, safety, transportation services. These vital services help seniors stay independent longer. So they've got a pretty good actual value proposition. But there's something that doesn't happen in how I feel when I'm on this page. And I think a lot of it has to do with the images. There's no image on here. And there's no sense of, okay, there's other people doing it, like I'm all by myself. Something's missing. And I'm like, I think we could do better. So back to House of Refuge, here is one of their giving pages that when you go into it, this is a monthly donor. And so they have their appeal, they have the testimony of Rich, who is the monthly donor, simple, short, they give clear options. Their branding is consistent. It's easy to follow. I know what to click on. And I want you to also notice what's not on this page, because we've talked about, not trying to reduce people's temptation to go off this page and leave without giving. They came on it to give. What's not on the page is there's no headers, no navigation, no videos, nothing that's going to take their attention away from why they came to this page. And so if you notice, I like having like a logo that has that it takes you back to home, because you don't want them never, not to connect back to your website at all, but to help them focus and stay on that. This is a clean giving page. There's no navigation at the top that says, oh, I'm going to go look at their social media feed, or I'm going to go look at this video, and never complete their giving. So when people go to give, you want to help usher them into that giving. And interestingly, Julie said something. She said, we learned something. We used to have our minimum giving was $50. And they realized that by putting $27 down there, it didn't actually reduce their average, but it gave more people an opportunity to join. And like I said, sometimes people are having pop-ups now. They give half their smallest as an option to say this makes a difference. But she said, now, though we have 27 as our lowest, we have all these other options. We're not just saying $27 for our monthly donor. Their average gift right now is $130 per month. So they definitely are valued by that. So one thing you want to do is reduce friction. So you want to the more decisions people have to make, the more likely they will bail. So you don't want to make them make too many decisions. That's why you have a few options. You can always put other in there. Reduce the number of clicks, make your clicks being meaningful. Up to 5 clicks people can handle. Over 5, you're in trouble. 3, probably ideal. But you just need to make sure each click is meaningful for a person to take and to get the information, go further. Look for anything that can distract. Look for anything that's confusing, frustrating, unclear in there, either the steps to take or the information. I know with Jeff, he had an option to, was it to give you a comment, or was it to, what was it that you took away?
There was this weird option to give like a legacy gift or something, like an honorarium of somebody. And it just was one more thing that didn't make sense. So it took me like a week to figure out how to get rid of it, but we got it.
Could be one of those pages that, if all of a sudden you go, we do have an older group and we want to do legacy giving, you have the option. Maybe it becomes a third option on your giving page that you go give now, give monthly, give a legacy gift, then it makes sense. So, but to have it on every single form, it made it confusing, and people could opt out or I think there was also leave a social media message. And I'm like, there's a ton of people that are like, whoa, what's that? And that makes people question and bail. So you want to make it easier for people to stick to the task, and that's giving. So make it easy. Here's a very common new thing that's happening is they're using pop-ups. And so it's really crisp and clear. You're on their giving page. You see what it is the program is about. You're motivated. And then the pop-up right in front of it, you haven't gone off. It doesn't look like you're leaving the website, that it's insecure, but it pops up right in front of you. And these are the ones that also say, don't forget to give. So different donor management systems handle this differently. And if you don't have any capacity to customize your donation form, B, have multiple donation forms, C, be able to do some of these things like pop-ups or being able to use something that will highlight something like a monthly donor. This one's, you've got the heart there that says monthly. Then I would say you're probably using a church system, because churches don't need any of that. So it is worth the investment in, when you're doing with nonprofits, to have a good system that allows you to do that kind of activity. So just a clarifier on what is a donation form, that's actually the processing. And as Jeff's talked about, he can embed it into his website page. That's happening more and more with good systems. They can allow you to embed it. But sometimes when you click give now, it takes you to a very different location. And that's usually, that's where your processing of the money happens in this other third party. But even there, you want to give that array of options for people, make sure it's clear. You only ask for the basic information. When you start asking for too much, that's one of the number one reasons people bail, is you ask for too much information. You can embed it, but think like a donor when you think about your donation forms and what information you're asking for. I know we're right at the top of the hour, and I don't want to lose two things. One, Jeff, and two, the opportunity to give some feedback for Luke. But, this is an example of give many options, whether it's PayPal, credit card. Some people have text to give now in their service. How do you give by mail? All that should be available on your website, on your giving page, if not on your giving form. The more options nowadays, Venmo, some people have. So there's different ways to do that. But I would say it really does it's worth having a short value proposition in there. Statistically, it's proven. Next After is the group that does this, but they look at, and when you have a value statement rather than just a money form, if they can see both, the feeling is this is a good decision. When I just see about money, it feels transactional, like you're going to use me. So it's an interesting realization. But having that giving page that is for monthly, and then here's an embedded form. So there's your monthly support information. There's your, these are a little bit longer, but they're very good, very clear. And then the giving form is right there to start to be filled out. Here's one thing that's different on Mentor Kids. They have this giving form. You've got a great picture of a kid, their eyes looking right at you. They also had this questions. They found there were some questions that kept people from doing it. And so in their situation, they decided to put this little questions thing, and then you can click on those questions and an answer will come up. Is this donation tax deductible? If people wanted to know, they could click on it, get the answer. If they didn't, it wasn't information that kept people. So it's only for those that they felt needed that information. Here's Jeff's The Block. He has one of those pop-ups that you're on his page, join the block, you can read the information about the block that's clear, and then up pops this. You don't feel like you're going to another place. He's automatically got it highlighted as monthly in there, so that people don't, sometimes people go on, they want to give monthly, they give you $25, but they miss that recurring thing. And if you don't have it as a default, they won't do it. So that's one of my big reasons for having separate pages between monthly and general giving, is you can set up monthly so it's specifically worded toward them in that context. And then another great, IJM does a great job with this as well. So they give you, here's my monthly giving page, great picture, eyeballs, kids, I want to help them. And then it talks about a monthly donor. You can send urgent rescue to help children trapped in modern day slavery and human trafficking. If that doesn't grab your heart to say, this is worth it, this is something I want to be a part of, each month you can support survivors and send help where it's needed most. So they've got simple, short, and then all the right information that's on their donation page makes it look simple. The donor, big numbers stay in pages like that. So checklist, donor focused, plan out your options, give strong value propositions, concise, strong ones, reduce distractions and any kind of friction, any risks where people go off, that you make giving easy. Give your options for giving and test your pages. That Jeff said that you can't minimize it all. Test them yourself, give them to your grandma, give them to your friends, pastors, anybody, to be able to give you that feedback, because that's the real true test of all of that. Jeff, anything you wanted to highlight on this?
The only other thing that I would say is, and this is a very specific thing, on your social media posts, and Instagram lets you do this now on the stories, but like link in bio is great, but always, like, we struggled with this, I don't know why, but for some reason we would forget to put a link in our description or in the caption, and now in the stories anybody can add a link. Before you couldn't do that, but always like putting a link in that takes you directly, not just to like the general giving page, but the actual, like, if you're going for your monthly donor program, link it like all the way to the monthly giving page.
To that one right there.
Yeah. That was helpful.
Yeah, it's very good, because if people are going to respond there, you want to give them the most direct, especially on Instagram, give them an instant response to the place that you want them to go. And that gets them to the location. So it really depends upon what you're trying to inform them, how much they know before they go on. If you go to your giving page, that they understand what you're about, or they go to your donation form, so they can actually make the donation immediately. So for those of you that want to stay on, Luke has, I'm going to take this question from Ashley. Any suggestions for Venmo, Zelle givers, since they do it on their own? Yeah, I would, on your general giving page, if you find you have a lot of Venmo or Zelle givers that are doing that, I would have a section, and it's one of the reasons why to have a website page where you're giving information. You can say by check, by Zelle, all these options people want to choose now. You still want them to see why it's a good idea. And then any information you need to give them, you can just do that. You can either have it as a pop-up if you click on it and the information pops out, or you can just have it right to the side right there. So in any way you can make giving preferences easy so people know what they're doing, that's what you want to do. And if that's like on your giving page and you have it as one of your boxes, give by Zelle, give by check, that could be another option that's on your primary giving page. All right, this is Luke. So we've wrapped up. We gave you your checklist. If you got to go, feel free to do that. But if you don't have to go, thank you, Jeff. If Jeff may have to go. Do you have to go too, Jeff?
Not right now. Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Oh, real quick, Heather,
Jeff-
I've been taking screenshots as we've gone through. Will this slideshow be sent later on, or
Yes, always.
they're the
And
best? Okay, cool.
and
Thanks so much.
the recording will always be available on the microgrant webpage. So either one, both of them will have to you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Maria, glad that you could be with us. I'm glad that you made it. Go rest. We bless you, sister. And so Jeff is making himself available. He's given not only his email address, but also the org address. You can check what they're doing out. Thank you, Jeff, for making yourself available. He learned a ton. He passes it on well, and that's why we brought him on. So if you want to ask him questions, go deeper, do that. But this is Luke's website page, and Luke said, would you guys give me feedback? So we're going to join in that. And so this is his main website page. When you first open it up and you see it, one of the things I love on this webpage is that you see their branding super clear. He's all about the outdoors, working with young men, using the outdoors as a classroom for mentoring, for teaching them things, fathering, all of that. And so you see this green and yellow combination. And I love that your donate button has the color around it, yellow. Congratulations. That looks really clear, really good. Other thoughts just on this front page from all of you? Feel free to unmute and chime in if you have something stands out that would either be helpful for him to improve or something you really like on this first website page. This is not a giving page.
This is your home page? Yes, okay.
Page.
Yeah, it's the first section of the homepage.
Love the quote. Love that quote. I think it's, if boys don't learn, men won't know. I mean, you're capturing your audience. You're looking at who are we focusing on and kind of what does it mean? So I love that quote. Anything else anyone want to add?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's masculine, and it definitely, I think it definitely lets you know what you're about. Like, you're about teaching these young men so that they can be men. I love it.
I love that your logo is awesome. The only thing that I would consider, and maybe it's a little further down, is something to let you know what you do. I guess I could click about, but even just having like a tagline or something with that quote underneath it, because you've got like everything's built. It's really great, and you can kind of like, I can maybe assume what it's about, but if there's a like, I don't know, a sentence or a
like a call to action, just from the
Well,
homepage.
and just saying this is what's above the fold, right? So this is when you first look at it. And my question is, does this make you want to scroll? Because above the fold is what people see immediately. Does it make you want to scroll to know more? Yeah.
For sure.
So you don't get to see the full scroll. He does have a lot there.
Wow.
One of the things that pops up right immediately is what you just said, Ashley, is donate.
Okay,
You
cool.
have the power to change a young man's story. So that's there. And if you scroll, you will see the team. You'll see quite a bit that goes there. So, but you may want to consider above the fold something that I think the idea of a tagline is great. Something that goes, what do you do? Who are you in any kind of a capacity? It does create curiosity. So I think that is good. And curiosity keeps people looking. That's a positive thing. Now, he does use the word donate, and it's small. I would just make the word donate bigger if you can. You get this big box of yellow. And I just like the word give, but that's my own personal preference. I don't know if anyone has opinions about that or other ideas.
Usually black in marketing isn't a standout for that kind of thing. So I'd use like a blue,
Dark
something,
green.
pull a blue from that color, yeah,
Mhm.
palette
Yeah.
behind it or something.
Good. So this now jumps onto his donate page, and he has an embedded form here. So you've got to the left-hand side, all the wording on it. On the right-hand side, you've got a very clear form. It is focused on monthly, it's highlighted monthly that's there. No picture. I think that's probably the first thing that stands out to me. There's no image here. So if I came onto your website and I got curious on your front page, and then I went to this, it feels pretty different because if you scroll down, you will see faces and pictures, and this idea of impacting men. I think that they're having a picture, not a video, could be really powerful here. Okay, let me give the rest of you some chance to give some feedback, some thoughts.
Yeah, I put in my notes to add some pictures for this page for sure. So
Usually EIN too, you don't need till later, like people might ask for it, but having it front and center, you could probably have it real tiny at the bottom somewhere on your website. Usually people don't care
Well,
about that.
Yeah, why EIN? Is there a reason you put that on there, Luke?
we had a lot of issues initially getting it. It took like 3 or 4 months. And then even after we got it, we weren't showing up on the IRS's website. So I was just having it on there just if anybody was looking, because we were reaching out to businesses and stuff at that time.
Yeah. So if it's related to businesses, this kind of helps me understand, who you connect to. And if you were to employ what Jeff did and go, because you're immediately coming onto this page and there isn't a distinction between one time or monthly in your language or your direct, or even businesses. If businesses want and need that, you could have this page. Here's one of 3 options, that you have is give now, give monthly, give as a corporate business. You can use different language, but if that's a common group and they need that, that would be good to give them. But I would agree with Ashley, very rarely do people need, and actually most people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And anytime you create a question on your giving page, it is an option for people to run. Because if they don't understand it, doesn't make sense, they create confusion, they're not sure what to do, what does it mean? That's where people bail. It's kind of funny. People bail so quickly when they have a question that gets brought up. And I think that's one of my comments here is don't have content that creates questions. So if you haven't said it on your website anywhere else, then don't say it on your donation page. Now, if you're doing a general donation page and you're giving information, that's one thing. But if you're going directly into a giving form, don't create any questions that are there. And so you guys can't read the small writing, but it's like when you donate to Field of Faith, a 501c3, your contribution goes directly toward funding camps, acquiring supplies, providing Bibles, and securing other necessary resources that are crucial for the success of our program. We believe that by investing in these young men, we're investing in the future of communities. And then the second paragraph, while we do have a membership fee in place, that was my first question. What? Made me leave this page and go back and go, what membership fee? What does that mean? I had to go hunt to figure that out. But we have a membership fee in place. Its purpose goes beyond covering basic costs. It serves as a way to engage personal investment from our participants, fosters a sense of community and responsibility. However, it's important to be open in the financial reality. On the average, it costs $1,000 per year for each young man to participate in a program. So when I did my research, I found out their fees was $100 a year, but it cost $1,000. So I think you've got some important, it feels like you're touching something that people have had questions about. Is that right, Luke?
Yeah, a little bit. I just, from a personal standpoint, like I wish we could do it for free, and this helps with a tiny bit of the financial piece of it. But at the same time, it's like we wanted to have some sort of membership piece because we didn't want people showing up 1 month and then not the next month, and to keep it regular. So it's been a weird situation of going back and forth. And just I just wanted to be transparent, be transparent about finances, and, with people donating money, like this is how much it really costs is really what we're trying to get our point across.
If people haven't asked you that question, I would encourage you, don't bring it up if they're not asking. If it's just you that's feeling the pain, you're feeling from your part side, not from the donor side. So the question is, where would you want to cover that in your website that isn't when they hit donate now? Because now you didn't even say on here that the fee is $100, and so it really costs $1,000. So these things are subsidizing that, which is very common, by the way, in nonprofits where you need to have some investment. People need to have some skin in the game, your boys, to be engaged and to show up regularly. I think I cut someone else off. Who was going to say something?
I was just wondering if you could propose it as a scholarship program. People tend to understand that, especially with youth, a lot more. And then again, like Heather said, we used to run, when me and my husband used to run a youth ministry team, and we did everything for free. You know what I mean? But again, they had to pay for their retreat, but we did everything in our power to do fundraisers and car washes and things like that, so the retreat was paid for. But at the end of the day, if they still owed $100, they owed $100. So we said scholarship, and we would put everything under that umbrella. And I think really people understand that it costs money to do ministry, and they might have to pay something, but you guys are doing everything you can to make sure this is free for your kiddos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes for today too, to add on top of the monthly giving section and kind of redo this whole area, to add a sponsored team kind of thing. So
yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Another option I agree. I would completely take out anything about what people have to pay in. Like, this is your audience for this page is not the people you're reaching out to or you're ministering to. It's people that are going to support you, if I'm understanding that correctly. And it might be really cool to have like a breakdown of $85 a month can get, this is what $85 a month will do for one young man, and then list supplies, Bibles, and we'll give them that for the month, something like that. And then you could even have in parentheses $1,000 per year, and then make $85 one of your options on the monthly. That was something we had to do, was figure out what specifically are our kids getting, or what's this donor providing for kids. Like, almost we're the middleman, but like, you're saying, okay, if you're donating, you are buying, look what you're doing. You're buying Bibles, you're providing training, or discipleship, whatever it is that you guys do, but making it very specific. And then there's plenty of other places on your website to talk about membership and how do you get involved as a recipient of what you're doing, if that makes sense. And that's what I'm trying to figure that out too for our kids, of like, okay, how much does it cost to get a kid through our programs? Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's $1,000 in a year is great, and helping people see some of the breakdown of the $1,000. A way I would encourage you to do it is to keep it broad and say, $85. It costs us $85 a month or year for supplies. It costs this for this. If you want to break some of that down and give them a picture, I am not a big fan of equalizing those with your options, because you can have donor disappointment. So if I really want to give Bibles and your Bibles are $85 and I can only give $20 a month, I'm like totally disappointed. I feel like a failure. But if you say these are the things we're doing and they cost these things, then people have education without disappointment. I can contribute whatever I've got and it goes toward all of this. So I've seen the people really move away from that dollar to dollar mindset, because number one, it's really hard to quantify. Number two, it's on the gray line of promising if you give 25, it's going to go toward that. And that is a nightmare to try to track. Not a lot of people have been called to the carpet on that, but the broader your giving option is, and the more people, anyone can give whatever they can to make a difference toward all of this, that's kind of the major win that is out there. And so I did this and give some more opportunity for other feedback, but I just dropped this in. All right, how does that feel? Just to have, boom, there's a picture, not probably the right picture, but at least it's outdoors and it's green, it's manly. But there's the picture and you've got your faith and field. And guess what I took away? I took away your navigation that's going to take me away for all of that. Well, I should have taken away your Facebook and your Instagram images up there and to the right of the donate, because you don't even need that up in the top right. And then if you just simply, these were a lot of your words. And I loved the end of that first paragraph. By investing in these young men, and I added who are fatherless, you are investing in the future of our communities. That's what he said in his paragraph. Your support, no matter how much the amount, provides ongoing resources and opportunities for these young men to grow, overcome obstacles, discover their true potential, and become confident leaders. Together, we can make a significant impact on their lives. We invite you to join our team today and impact young men's lives month after month. I like the invitation. Actually, the invitation I noticed recently was on that Mentor Kids site. That was their last line as well, was kind of an invitation to join it. And this shifts the whole tone from you feeling bad about asking people to you're actually inviting them to make a difference in this one. Thank you, Jeff, for being on here. Appreciate your contribution in there. So that's a shift. And I mean, I really didn't spend much time on it, but just taking some of your words and going, what would that look like to simplify it and cover that? I had a couple of people had other comments there.
I think that looks great. I love that. And I love to, I think you had shown it in one of your other slides last week, but where it's just like a paragraph like that, and then it bolds the certain things. So if people are like not reading every single word, they're going to see, just impact or, influence, all of those things. I think that makes it really easy to read.
Yes. For those people that like to skim, if you bold, fatherless, investing in the community, potential, together we can make an impact, whatever you feel would be really important for them to minimally capture on those paragraphs, it's great to there. So there's couple of other small things, because I feel that what your desire is to be transparent in terms of funding. You can do that in some very positive ways, even on a different page, as people are looking at your programming, as people are looking at others, because when they go to give, that's not the time you want to explain all of that. Once they're ready to give, then you want to help them go, this is a good decision, go for it, because what we're doing matters, and we are part of that team. So when you're inviting people to give, it's not just transactional, it's like they're part of what you're doing, which was a connection to your front page where you said, here's our team. And if your donors become part of your team, then we are making a difference together. So you've got some really powerful language that's there. I just think you just need to reduce it and clean up some things. So it's really, when they come on this page, they're coming to give. And if you want to promote monthly versus the one time, I would have two different pages, so you can say monthly, and I preferenced that in my last statement. We can enjoy it to impact young men's lives month after month, because you had monthly highlighted here, But I'm a big fan for highlighting it and promoting monthly and even naming that group. It's like, what would that be? Your field and faith partners. Statistically, when you name something and people feel like they're part of a group that's doing that, people want to join even more. Excellent. I'm going to stop sharing. I think that was that my last slide? Yes, that's my last slide. Any other questions or comments or insights that our remaining last people want to give on either communication planning or Giving Pages donation forms?